Hello, friends. Welcome to Aslan Speaks, episode, episode 29. And today is going to be called the Eagles, or the Eagle. Wow, guys. It's called the Ego Mind versus Enlightenment. The Ego Mind versus Enlightenment. And I came across that paper by a man named Richard Barrett. Last name Barrett, Richard Barrett. And he there was a paper that he wrote that's called The Ego Soul Dynamics of the Enlightenment. And I want to share some of the words that he wrote, because it's what he wrote is very insightful, and it's almost does a better job of how I could explain it. So step one: what is enlightenment? Are you ready for this? Are you seeking enlightenment? So what is enlightenment? We tend to think of enlightenment as an end state, a goal to achieve. Yeah, we think of enlightenment as, hey, we need to achieve this goal. I prefer to think of it as a process of learning. If you're a human being living on this planet Earth, whether you're aware of it or not, you're involved in this process. That every human being on this earth, my friends, are involved in this process, the process of attaining enlightenment. And that's what reincarnation is that a lot of us, because we haven't achieved enlightenment, or basically enlightenment is to tap into or become one with the source energy or God, we have to reincarnate to relearn our lessons until we achieve this. So it's a learning lesson, basically, because we're all, in some shape or form, learning the process of enlightenment, even if we're not aware of it, or even when we're unconscious of it. If enlightenment is a process of learning, the next question that arises is, what is we, as humans living in a material universe, are trying to learn? What are we trying to learn? What are we trying to learn? I believe we're trying to I believe that we are trying not just to learn, but to embody are the underlying principles that govern the operation of our universe. Not only our three-dimensional material universe, which is a property of perception, but the underlining four-dimensional energetic universe that is the container of our three-dimensional material universe. This four-dimensional energetic universe is in the world of the soul. Some call the fourth dimension as the astral plane. The astral plane, the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension. It's where the soul or higher energies dwell. We make progress in our journey towards enlightenment in our three-dimensional material world to extent what we stop identifying with our ego and start identifying with our soul. So we achieve this progress, like transcending the three-dimensional world, by stop identifying with our ego or our ego mind, and we start identifying with our soul. And that's what I do, is I'm learning to listen to my soul, or my Holy Spirit within me when it speaks, and I try to be guided by my soul, my soul self, instead of my ego self, which is like, basically ego is I like to explain it as the seven deadly sins, and it's like that anger or that lust or that, that greed, like when you got greed for that materialism, that greed is driving you to gain that materialism. That's not really your soul, because your soul is internal. It knows it has everything, so it doesn't really need or seek out materialism, because it already has everything. But our egos, we crave that new iPhone or that new Samsung. We need that new DVD. We need those new Jordans. We need that new brand new Benz, even though the Benz that we already have is a year old. We need a new house, because the house that we have has 2 bedrooms, and now we want the 4 bedrooms. Even though the house that we had serves our needs perfectly fine. So our ego mind, like, it stops us basically from pursuing or reaching enlightenment because we're lost in the ego. Like I like to say, the ego mind is our lower nature or our lower self, and our lower self is still trapped in that 3D dimensional world, and it's still, giving into like fear-based thinking and letting other people control you and not stepping into your power. And some people say the ego is bad, some people say the ego is good. It's the law of duality. It is both good and bad. So let's talk about the ego, or I like to say the ego mind. You ready for this, my friends? Are you ready? All right, the ego. The ego is a field of consciousness, of awareness that identifies with your physical body. Because the ego believes it inhabits the body and lives in the material world, it lives in a three-dimensional reality and thinks it can die. That it's mortal. Because it thinks it can die, it thinks it has needs. And because it thinks it has needs, it develops fears about not being able to get its needs met. So the ego develops fears of not obtaining its needs, basically. A fear of, we use it as fear of not getting food for the belly, because we fear, our ego fears death. So because of fearing death, we fear starvation. So we fear not providing for the food, in our bellies, or that getting that paper, so we fear not getting that paycheck to put food on the bills or pay our rent. The principal needs of the ego are survival, safety, and security. The ego mind is the creation of the soul mind. What? The ego mind and the soul mind? So is that basically saying that we have two minds? Well, I like to say we have one mind. It's our lower self and our higher self. And our lower self is our ego mind, and so that's when we're in like the stage 1 or stage 2 of consciousness, where stage 1 is like we're still sleeping. We're like Neo in the Matrix, and we're still plugged into the Matrix. And stage 3 and 4 is when we're ascending to the divine. We're tapping into the Holy Spirit. We let our soul guide us. And so basically, the ego mind is the creation of the soul mind. The soul creates the ego to protect itself from the pain. Yes, our soul creates the ego mind to protect ourselves in this three-dimensional world. And it protects us from pain, feeling the pain that experiences being present in the three-dimensional awareness. Yeah, intriguing. The ego is not who we are. Yes, guys, I want to repeat that. The ego is not who we are. It is who we think we are. We think we are the ego. It is the mask you wear to get your needs met in the physical, social, and culture framework. It is the mask, like the ego is like the mask that we wear to get our needs met and fulfill our basic needs in the social, like maybe with friends and family, or culturally, or physically, in this material existence, 3D world. The ego represents your sense of identity in relations to others and the social context in which you live. Your ego begins to form during your ego identity begins to form during your first 2 to 3 years of your life, and it keeps going on till and it starts to I'm getting tongue tied here. Till when you get about 20 is when your ego is fully developed almost. As you become a viable and independent member of the community in the culture framework of your existence, is around 20. When you get to the stage in your life, you normally respond to the question, who am I? So when you start becoming an adult, you start like, hey, who am I? What was my purpose here? By stating your age, gender, role, occupation, race, religion, and nationality, these are the things that identify you as your ego. So your ego is that programming that you grew up with, that the age, gender, role, occupation, race, religion, and nationality. And so you think you're this because you're born in like Germany, or you're born in Ireland. So I'm Irish. But really, human beings, we're all we separate ourselves. Oh, he's German, I'm Irish, we're so different. But really, as a collective, we are all human. Yes, we are different because we grew up in different cultures, and that cultures program us or program our ego mind to behave and act a certain way. But at the same time, at the end of the day, we are one race. We are the human race. We all bleed the same red blood. We all have two arms. We all have two legs. We all have one head, one mouth, one nose, two ears, two eyes. But depending on where you're born, then it separates you. I'm better than you because I grew up in this country, or I'm better than you because I have this pigment, whatever it may be. We got to get rid of that thinking, because that thinking is our ego mind. It's that programming, our lower nature, our lower mind. To attain enlightenment is to basically rid yourself of the ego mind. Instead of the ego mind, you got to tap into the soul mind, your divine self. So let's get on to the soul. The soul. Your soul is a field of consciousness. Your field is a field of conscious awareness that identifies with your energetic field. Because at the end of the day, if you know anything about science, we are energetic beings. That our bodies and everything around us is energy, and it's only vibrating at a certain frequency, and basically that's what forms this 3D dimensional world. And what our eyes do is our eyes are looking, seeing, and picking up on the energy or the light energy, and we're seeing the light energy enter our eyes, and then in our brain is transcribing that the light codes that we see, or light energy that we see, and is materializing it into our 3D world, almost like a projector. Just like a projector, like the projector gets these codes, this digital code from digital format, and then it transcribes it and shoots it in a form of light onto the screen to make whatever those codes are, and that's what our brain's basically doing. So our soul identifies with our energetic field. You ever hear of the auric field? So our soul is who we are. You don't have a soul, my friends. You don't have a soul. You are a soul. Your soul and the soul of every other human being is an individual aspect of the universal energy field, from which everything in our physical world arises. Because the soul identifies with your energetic field and not with your physical body, your soul lives in the fourth dimensional energetic reality. The soul knows it cannot die. The soul knows it's immortal. The soul has no fear, or has no fears. Not only does the soul have no fears, it also has no needs. The reason it has no needs is that the energetic level of its existence creates whatever it desires through its thoughts. Thoughts are powerful. My friend, our thoughts create our reality. When you got that thought of anger in your mind, and you're thinking of angry about somebody else, guess what's happening? You're creating anger within you, and you're manifesting it into your reality, and you're throwing anger towards whoever you're thinking about, and maybe you're having an argument with in anger, and guess what you're triggering? You're creating and manifesting anger to rise up in that person, especially if they're in their lower nature, if they're not awake. Just like when you wake up out of the bed in the morning and you stub your toe and you're like, oh, dang it, I'm going to have a bad day. And then that's the first thought you have in your mind. And through the whole day, your day goes bad, because in your mind, in your soul mind, you allow your lower nature to take control, and you plant that thought of, I'm going to have a bad day because I stubbed my toe. So everything you look at during that day is bad or negative. Your thoughts create through the power of thought. The soul knows it has everything, so it doesn't need needs or wants or desires, because it has everything, because it can instantly manifest it. That's how powerful you are when you tap into your soul power. Why do you think Jesus turned water into wine, or made multiple loaves of bread, or healed people? because he was tapped into his divine self, his soul. Him and the Father were one. So he could tap into that, hey, I don't need nothing. I don't want nothing, but I know I can just instantly make it happen. Pretty cool stuff when you think about it, guys. Because our souls are individual aspects of the universal energy field. So we are souls, my friends. All the humans, every human. That's the problem. We gotta look at the world. Like, we see him as, oh, he's from Ireland. We see him from, oh, he's from Germany. Oh, he's from Czechoslovakia or wherever. And we see ourselves separated. We should look at it, hey, that's a human soul, right? We're all human, and that's a soul, that's a soul. We're all one. We're all divine. So our souls are the individual aspects of the universal energy field. Everything around us is energy. It's the universal energy field. Our reality, the earth or whatever you call it, is a universal energy field. So our soul feels a sense of interconnectedness to every other soul. Consequently, at the soul level, we live in oneness. So intuitively, when you tap into our soul consciousness, our higher self, we know intuitively that we're all one. That everything's oneness. That there is no separation. Our ego mind, our lower nature, is what generates the separation, or that tendency to compete with others. I'm better than you because I got bigger muscles. That's the ego. Well, I'm better than you because I'm smarter than you. I got a bigger brain, so I can outthink you. That's that caveman mentality. When you live in a world of oneness, giving is the same as receiving. So this is really important, guys. When you live in a world of oneness, when you look at everything as one, like, hey, we're all human. That's a human soul. There's divine in all of us. Giving to others is like receiving. Because when you give to others, you give to yourself. And Jesus sums this up in the Bible. Do unto others as you want them to do unto you. When you hurt somebody, you're really hurting yourself. When you lash out anger at somebody, you're really lashing out anger at yourself. You know, when you give lovingly to somebody, then you're really giving lovingly to yourself. It's all a matter of perception, my friends. Even though the soul has no needs in the way that the ego has needs, it does have desires. The soul's principal desires are self-expression. The soul wants to express itself, and connect or interconnect. Wants connection and contribution. So our soul wants to contribute to the energetic field around us, to everything around us, and express the individuality of the soul. The soul incarnates in this three-dimensional material awareness to fulfill these desires. The purpose of the soul's desire is to recreate its 4D reality in the 3D reality, or 3D awareness. When we are able to do this, we begin to reach enlightenment. So our soul wants to be like, hey, I'm up here in this energetic field, and I'm seeing everything at a 4D level or a 5D, and I'm super consciousness, and I'm super manifestation, I'm super positive and loving, and in oneness with everything, and I want to express that and create that in the 3-dimensional world. You know your soul desires are being met when you feel your life has meaning. When you can connect with others at a deep level, and when you can use your gifts and talents to contribute to making a difference in the world. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to use my skills and talents to make a difference in the world, even if it's one person at a time, one soul at a time. I'm not all knowing and all perfect. I may mess things up, guys, but I'm trying to help everybody because I try my best to see everybody as a soul or human being, and part of me. We're all one. The only thing that prevents the soul from fulfilling its desires are the ego's fears. So the only reason why your soul's desires haven't been met is because all of your ego mind's fears, your lower self fears, your fears and doubts from your lower self. You allowing the ego mind to hijack the higher mind or your soul's mind and run your life. And then your ego mind's giving into that fear, doubt, and that caveman primitive thinking. So our survival, safety, and security needs, like our ego mind's like, hey, survival, security, and safety, and safety. The ego fears about meeting its deficiency needs is kept it firmly attached to the physical, social, and cultural identity, and prevents enlightenment. So basically, to sum it up, your ego mind like blocks you from attaining enlightenment or awakening your consciousness. Keeps you still asleep, still plugged into the matrix because of the, you fear for survival, your fear for safety, and your fear for security. Your ego mind is like your lower nature, like, and in order to attain enlightenment, you gotta remove that ego mind. It's good for you because it's here to help protect you in this 3D matrix or three-dimensional reality. But in the end, your ego holds you back. And I did a video earlier, and I talked briefly about the ego and how basically so many reasons our world is so troubled. Like this, we live in such troubling times, is because basically every majority of every human being has been stuck in their ego mind, and they don't tap into the divine within themselves. They don't listen to their soul when it speaks, or when their soul mind. They're still chasing that materialism, that fancy car, that binge watching 10 hours of TV every day, not caring about, the person next to them, or even if they do care, they barely care. Like, they instead of spending 10 hours with their children teaching them how to become better human beings, they spend 10 hours binge watching TV shows. Or, they make decent money, instead of spending it on their health or good healthy food or good stuff for their children, they spend it on drugs and alcohol or on a fancy car or whatever, chasing that materialism. They're not using it for the upliftment of their family or themselves. They use it to just fulfill a material hole in that, and they think that material is going to fix that hole within them, but really it's not. Most people, they know, they sense, their soul sometimes comes through and say, hey, you're missing something here, you're missing something here. And they think, oh, if I get that car, that or the new job, or that hot girlfriend or hot boyfriend, I'll feel whole and complete. But really what they're missing, it's not outside of them, it's inside them. They haven't tapped into their soul mind, or the soul, or the divine within them. Because once they do that, then they can realize, hey, I'm already whole and complete. Wow, that's some powerful stuff, guys. That's the problem of the world, though. They too busy watching the NFL and NBA. They, so many people, you ask them, hey, they know all their favorite team members' names, right? But they don't know nothing about Bible verses. They're like, hey, can you quote me a Bible verse? Can you quote me 10 Bible verses? Can you talk to me about what are some books of enlightenment? Do you know anything about meditation? Do you know anything about pranayama, breath work? Do you see you ask them, like, they're so busy fixated on getting to the every Sunday watching that game and spending their devotion to that, worshiping that football team every Sunday or every day, following it on their phone, watching all their stats, wearing their favorite jersey. They're worshiping false idols. And they're seeking this materialism, all this stuff outside themselves, and in the end, everything they need is inside you. That's why some people are feeling sad, depressed, anxiety, fearful, that they're not obtaining. They feel like they're reaching out for something, and they keep coming up short, because it's not outside that you need to reach. You need to reach inside your soul. Tap into the divine, guys, and trust me, when you do that, it is magical. Magical. My life changed almost overnight when I started just trusting my soul. Being a good-hearted, loving, kind person, and learning to actually remove my programs, learning to remove the ego. Learning to, hey, I don't necessarily need a giant mansion to be fulfilled and whole. I have a house. I'm content with what I have. I rather seek enlightenment to awaken my soul. I rather help others awaken their soul. All right, enough ranting. That was just me going on a tangent for a second. So the soul incarnates in a human embryo by willing itself to be present in the three-dimensional material world. So our soul goes down to the three-dimensional and and hops in an embryo, basically, our spirit, our soul. The soul's will to be present in the three-dimensional material reality is the source of the ego's will to survive. So, this is called redefining enlightenment. Based on this perspective, we can redefine enlightenment as a process of learning to live in soul consciousness. Ooh, I said like stages of consciousness. So like stage 1, stage 2 is our lower nature, and stage 4 is soul consciousness. Stage 4 is your enlightenment. You're like the Buddha. You're like Jesus. You're walking that righteous path. You're straying farther and farther away from all that ego. You're learning you don't have to give into your fear. Because you're in the end you're immortal. You're fearless. You're not powerless. You're powerful. So it's learning to live in the soul consciousness, to be conscious every moment, every aspect. And that's one of the biggest things when I started awakening is learning to every thought, feeling that enters my mind, enters this noggin or this brain of mine. I analyze it and I'm aware of it. I am conscious, almost at every moment of the day. Why am I thinking this thought? Why is this popping in my head? Is this fear-based thinking or is this positive-based thinking? And analyzing it and then only allowing my soul to speak and I filter out all the other garbage. Hey, I need to get a fast car. I need $1 million in the bank. I need brand new tennis shoes. I need the need. And then I'm like, you know what? Who's telling me? Is that my soul telling me it, or is that my ego mind? Hey, me getting $1 million, I already have plenty of money. I can feed myself, take care of myself. I have all the basic necessities. I don't have to be a millionaire to feel whole and complete, because I'm whole and complete because I have tapped into my soul. I tapped into my higher self. I'm powerful because I'm tapped into the soul consciousness. Soul consciousness is tapped into everything else, the oneness. That is why sometimes when I speak, it's like I'm pulling things out of the ether. As I speak to you, I say certain things, and it's not coming from my personal ego self or the person I identify as a human being, but it comes from my soul. So it's my soul as it speaks, it pulling things out of the ether. It just comes in and pops in my head, and I speak it. So it's soul consciousness, guys. Fourth dimensional energetic awareness. That's what it is. That your soul consciousness is you being aware in a fourth dimensional energetic awareness, while being in the physical body in the three-dimensional material world. We achieve enlightenment to the extent that we are able to overcome the illusion of the three-dimensional material awareness created by our sense and embrace the principles that govern the fourth dimensional energetic world of the soul. Ooh, some tonguey, wordy stuff. So here's the problem with this is a problem with our perception. And that's also the ego mind is our perception, how we view things. Our basically our ego mind, when we see the world, we're only seeing with one eye. We may have two, possibly even three eyes. I like to say we have three eyes. We have the third eye, our soul eye, or our higher self eye that lives in the pineal gland, our spiritual eye. But the ego mind, it's basically like close one of your eyes, and that's how you're seeing the world the whole entire time. You're only having half your vision. But when you start seeing, tapping into your soul consciousness and your soul awareness, your higher self, you start seeing through with both eyes, or all your vision capabilities. Instead of you looking at the view at the base of the mountain, you're at the top of the mountain. You can see the whole plateau beneath you. Even though the human brain is surrounded by frequencies a vibration coming from a larger multi-dimensional energetic continuum is constrained in the frequencies it's strained basically by the frequencies it can interpret. So I talk about this, guys, that like earlier I was talking about how we set everything's energy and our eyes pick up on that light energy basically, and it decodes it, and then it projects into our mind what we see in our reality. And then we're limited by our five basic senses, like smell, hearing, taste, and touch, and earlier sight. And we're only guys, we're only feeling like a fraction of what we're truly capable of. Our vision, we can only see, there's so many different spectrums of color and light, and we can only see a small fraction of that with our physical eyes. But I pose the idea you may be able to see more with your third eye if you're able to awaken it and unlock and tap into it, if you know what you're doing and if you actually seek the path of enlightenment. We have five senses, but they talk about other senses, and what those other senses are. They call it psychic abilities, clairvoyance, clairaudience. Clairaudience is clear hearing. Clairvoyance is clear knowing. Or I get them mixed up. There's multiple of them. But them are spiritual senses. Them are soul awareness or soul consciousness senses. But most people, they're asleep or dormant, or people don't even know how to tap into them. And I tell you what, you cannot tap into them. You cannot tap into them if you binge watch TV 10 hours a day. If you eat horrible, heavy, unlively foods, because most processed foods are non-energetic foods. They're dead foods. So it's up to you guys. Hold on 1 second here. It's up to you guys what you choose. So it's your ego mind versus your soul mind. And to attain enlightenment, to awaken, it's basically you gotta start removing all your baggage, all that trauma and hurt, guilt, everything associated with your ego mind. You gotta remove that. What you think who you are. You gotta change who you are. You gotta start being like, hey, I'm a soul. I'm a divine being. Look at Buddha. The Buddha was a prince. And one day he would have been a king. And he left that all behind and became like a mystic and studied with mystics. And he meditated and did yoga and spent years upon years. And then he was dealing with like what is suffering and how do we overcome suffering in the world. And then one day, after many years of, even like he used to like live off of like a couple grains of rice, if my memory serves me correctly. But basically what he did all those years, he learned self-mastery. He started learning, hey, I don't need all this materialism. And then he started tapping into the divine within himself. And one day he sat beneath a tree and he basically reached enlightenment. In India, they call it samadhi. It's becoming one with the universe. Guys, I had a state of this where I went into deep meditation and I experienced the oneness of everything. And I only was in that state for like a couple seconds, and it was amazing. Best feeling I ever felt in my life, when I reached that, and I did it by accident. The reason I didn't stay in it is because I wasn't consciously prepared or ready for it. Because my soul showed me what I'm capable of achieving. What we're all capable of achieving. I hope this video was helpful, guys. I was ranting a little bit. God bless you. And if you like this, like and share. And I wish you luck on your path of enlightenment. I wish you luck on the path of awakening. And the key is, guys, get your ego mind, your lower nature under control. Every day you should be filtering out your thoughts. Am I being guided by my ego mind? Like, is this thought my ego or is this my higher self? And that's how you could tap into it, guys. And it starts when you keep doing it and practicing it, you get to the point where, like me, almost every day I'm guided by my higher self, or my soul, my soul awareness, a soul consciousness is speaking, or is guiding my actions, how I treat other people, and how I do certain activities. Whereas before, when I was younger, it was my ego, and my ego mind, I would lash out in anger. So when I have a conflict arise in my life, especially with another person, when my soul or my soul awareness is in place, I act out of a loving, kind, compassionate way, even if they're upset with me or angry. And then it's your perception, and what do you choose? You choose to be in your lower nature or your higher nature. And if you want to understand becoming your higher self, I have a video on this channel about becoming your higher self. If you want to learn how to truly master the ego mind, in my book, there's a book on Amazon called Hidden Knowledge, Gained Wisdom by Eric Johnson. It's a blue cover. It's on Amazon. And there's a chapter in there called Gnosis. And Gnosis means know thyself. And it's a chapter, it dives all about how to overcome the ego mind. And then I'm pretty sure on this channel, I also have a video about spirituality for beginners. I also have a episode about awakening and how to awaken. So if you're seeking the path, also the coolest thing, if you're seeking enlightenment, the information and knowledge will come to you. When your consciousness is ready and aware to receive that kind of information and to actually understand it and to actually implement it in your life, it will come to you. It'll start, your universe or your soul will start attracting to the people you need in your life that can help teach you and stuff. Especially if you're watching this video. Like, if you're watching this video and you're actually made it this far, it's because, hey, your soul was ready and you're actually comprehending what I'm saying and not like tuning it out. It's because your soul, it's like, hey, you have to listen to this. Like, hey, you're ready. You're down. You're basically you're raising your consciousness right now as you're watching this video. You're raising your awareness and you're tapping into your soul consciousness and tapping into the divine. And it's down, basically, as you're watching, you're downloading yourself higher and higher states of consciousness and programs, so that you can become your best version of yourself. And your best version of yourself is learning that, hey, you're not this physical three-dimensional being, but you're actually like a fourth or fifth or higher energetic being that has endless potential. God bless you, my friends. Amen.